Alright, so I was using this thing a while back and ran into an issue. You can see this fuel line hanging down. We were on a job and I went to go to use it, and all of a sudden the fuel is just squirting out of here. And right above here, there's a pressure line that goes from here to the carburetor, I think. I don't really know. I haven't gotten to part yet. But when we were on the job site, we had to fix it. So we had to fix it right away. We were painting something. I had 3 guys standing. Too much money to sit there and wait for me to take the whole generator apart. So what I did is I just elected to go ahead and just break the case away right here, and then so I could reach in there far enough to get my hand in there to fix it temporarily. And we just put this hose on. Of course, it started leaking more and more as we went. It was just not really a fuel hose, but we just did it as a temporary repair so we could get through the job. Actually finished the job, which was good, and saved me from having to go back. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and take this apart and let you guys check it out and show you how to change those fuel lines. Let's see, let's put you about right here. Maybe move you down just a little, right there. What do you think? How's that? Put you guys about right there. So to get these screws out on this one here, they have to come out from the opposite side. So if you're wondering when you go to look in there, you're gonna put your screwdriver in there and you find out that it doesn't turn anything, it's probably because you need to take your flashlight and kind of look inside the holes and see which direction the screws are in. So these I have to remove from the other side. You got these 2 screws down here. I've already taken one of these out. Looks like I'm gonna have to take these out, and then also this one and this one over here to remove the whole side. So I'm gonna have to split this thing in half. I've never had it apart myself. One of the guys who works for me took it apart last time, and I see some screws missing, but I'm not gonna blame him. I don't know, maybe they came loose. It's pretty old. A lot of times, it might be that if you start having a lot of problems like this, it might be just time to replace it if you're doing like the type of work that I'm doing with it. It's actually a good generator. It still works great. It still charges, works fine, but sometimes if it's unreliable when you're doing like construction work, that can be an issue. And that's one of the reasons people say, they would prefer the Honda, but to me, you're spending $1,000 and still that, that generator has a lifespan. I mean, the hoses are still going to go bad on it. So maybe the engine itself will last longer, but in my case it didn't. But let's just say the engine did last longer, but you have to replace all the hoses and take it all apart. You might as well just buy a new one every 4 or 5 years and then have something reliable. So that's something to consider when you're buying one of these. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and take those apart and we'll take a look inside and see what happens. So far I've needed this really long screwdriver and a little socket set to get some of these out. I think that's a 5/16 or 8mm, whatever you have. And the other side spins. These are little things I've run into. Having the long screwdriver, these ones over here on this side, I don't know if you guys can see that. On the ones on the opposite side of this side, they're actually really hard to get to with a screwdriver. So you need a really long screwdriver to get in there. What was that? A little better? All right, I'll bring you guys back in a minute. All right, so I'll bring in some reinforcements here. Always good to have a little cordless impact. All right, I'm going to take off all the rest of the screws. There's a lot of them. I'll be back, bring you guys back in a minute. All right, so it looks like I got this whole side off. I just removed a bunch of screws, all the ones on the face and all the ones on the back. There's even probably some on the other side that I removed that I probably didn't need to. But I just really need to get to this side. And if you can see here, this is where the bad hose is. So let's take a look at it. Let me get you guys up a little closer. Take a look at it for a second. So if you can see here, I could get to, if I broke away the case, like if you were in an emergency situation, you could do the same thing I did, break away the case, but you can get to one of the bolts right here, but you can't get to this one. So, you know, if you really needed to get this piece out in your emergency situation, you might want to break away a little bit on the side of the case and get in there, maybe use a hacksaw. You can always use J&B weld it back together. This is what I ended up with here. And of course, it's going to be a little bit of gas. It's going to leak out right here. And I just pulled this end off right here. But the main thing to know right now is what size is the fuel line. So let me grab my fuel line that I got, and let's see if it's the right one. I don't know. We'll find out in a second. So what I got was 5mm motorcycle hose. And I got some clamps for it too. But it seems like it's a little bit tight. So it might be 6, or it might be 1/4 inch. It didn't look like it was that big, but let's see. It does work. I would say 5mm would work fine. The 1/4 inch might be too... might be a little bit too big, and that's what we ran into. I think I got this was 1/4 inch, this type of stuff, and this was just at Home Depot as an emergency repair. We got this little clamp here. This is the original clamp, but we just went to the hardware store real quick, and we got this little like connecting barb thing. I don't know what it's called, but I got this little thing here, and then we just took the original hose and put this on here to get emergency repair done. So if you did have an emergency, a little bit further up the case is this here, and then you have this, and it's highly pressurized right here. I mean, yeah, what, highly pressurized, like 9 pounds or something. But that's kind of how it works. And then this looks like a crankcase breather. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's just a crankcase breather set. That's what this is. Emissions equipment. So they could stay there or disappear, and probably just work just fine. Lighten it up a little bit, but I didn't tell you that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just replace this section of the fuel line. And then what I'm going to do is also, since I'm in here, I'm going to replace the section from the tank. This is like, I don't know, it has a, I think this is a fuel pump, but I'm not sure. Not sure how it works. But I'm going to go ahead and replace all these fuel hoses. The ones that actually I think have pressure. I think it's, I don't know how this thing works, but it sure does have some fuel pressure right here. And it's this thing here that creates it, I believe. So I'm not exactly sure how it works. It doesn't seem to have anything that spins it. It has a extra hose that goes from, oh, you know what it is? I think it uses the exhaust pressure. That'd be kind of risky. But it uses some sort of, like, maybe the exhaust pressure to pressurize this thing, and actually, that's what I think it is. I don't know. If you know, comment. But yeah, it's this thing here is the fuel pump, and it seems to bring pretty good pressure. I noticed here's a fuel filter. I did happen to get one. This set came from Amazon with the yellow fuel hose, and I think this might be better than the original stuff. That's what I'm hoping. I don't really know. If you had an experience, good or bad, with this, let us know. We'd love to see it. But I'm going to go ahead and replace this line all the way through. And then I noticed my pull cord, we've already repaired it once, and I'm going to see about replacing that. It looks like it's going to be really tough. I'm going to have to probably pull this whole thing apart to get to it. Yeah, maybe I'll just leave it. I don't know. It looks pretty bad. There's something going on there. Looks like this thing here came out, and that's going to cause an issue. So it looks like it was glued in place. I wonder who did that. It was the other guy who worked on it, but that's okay. I don't know. It was glued in with some sort of like Gorilla Snot, looks like to me. Maybe I'll just use a little bit of silicone, hold it in place with that. Probably lasts longer. It just takes a little longer to dry, but it probably lasts longer. And then what happened last time, I remember, was the pull cord broke here, and then it sucked it all in, and then we pulled it out and then retied it, and then it stopped. It started working fine after that, but this pull cord is kind of old. I do have a new one. So anyway, that's kind of how you get it apart. I think that to get this out, I'm going to take the gas tank. Yeah, that's going to have to come out, and then which means the gas cap's going to have to come off here. And then this thing looks like it comes, this whole piece of case comes over the top of that. So anyway, if I see anything weird, I'll definitely let you know. Well, it seems like once you, I'll move this back so you can see. Once you remove all the screws from the other side, then the gas tank comes out nicely. You remove this breather tube, and then the gas tank comes out pretty easily with the rest of it. So the only difficulty is getting this last clamp off right here from the bottom of the gas tank. Twist it a little bit, usually that works. And then pull the gas hose off, and then kind of tip it on its end so it doesn't leak all over the place. And then you'll have this piece here off. You know, that whole area will be off of there. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, I'll bring you guys back in a second once I see the next thing I need to do. Alright, so I was able to pretty easily get the recoil off. And I'm going to show you real quick how that happened. It's very simple. You might have a little bit of difficulty with it because you might have a problem with, what you might have run into an issue is on this screw right here that holds the bottom in. And I left all this circuit board in place. And this was a Phillips screwdriver. This is a long Phillips screwdriver. I just came in at a little bit of an angle. Really long one like this. What is that, about a 12 inch? 14 inch? What do you guys think? I'm not sure. But a long one, come in the side, and then a stubby here. Now what you might run into is on this one is because you know it's really limited area, you might have to grab the outside of the stubby with a pair of pliers. This one's already been out once, so it wasn't that tight, but if it's really, really tight, you could do that. Or you might have to use a 90-degree Phillips to get in here just to get it loosened. And then you can actually get a stubby in there after that. I just use one of these little Harbor Freight junkers. So I had laying around. Wish I had a better one. That would have been, it's kind of like a number 1, number 2 almost. And a real full number 2 would have been the way to go. So anyway, that's off. And then to make sure to do this, you have to remember how to rewind your spring. I don't think you put any tension on this one, so that might be one of the issues why it's not recoiling all the way in. And then you see how this is worn here. This should be permanently attached here, so that needs to be, you know, rectified. So I'll probably have to leave this overnight. I'll glue this in place. What I'm going to use is I use this, if you've ever watched any of my videos, you'll know that I use this all the time. This is called Mega Black from they have this at Versachem. Let's see if I can get a better focus. How about this? Versachem Mega Black. And this comes from O'Reilly Auto Parts. And then you can get your rope. I think this is actually, I'm not sure what size this is. I think I got 3mm. Looks like about a 3mm one. You might have to guess a little bit on that. I might go to the 3mm, and then I'll replace this line inside here, and I'll glue this permanently in place with that. And you gotta let it sit overnight. That stuff is really, it sticks really good. It sticks really good, and it actually it actually holds, and it's the strongest silicone I've ever used, and it's very cheap compared to like Permatex. It's actually better than Ultra Black. So a lot of people think it isn't. They, oh no, it's not as good. Whatever. Go ahead and use the Ultra Black, and you'll find out, 10 years from now, that what I'm saying, if you listen the first time, it's right. So anyway, but you glue this in place here. I'm going to glue this in place so that it doesn't fall out, and then I'm going to go ahead and replace this line. And remember, there's spring tension on here, so there should always be. You have to wind the spring. So, kind of use your common sense to how to do that, so that it has spring tension on it all the time, and then put it back in place, because right now, see, there's no spring tension. It should have a little more spring tension than that on here. You don't want too much spring tension. You don't want, want it so that the cord isn't loose hanging, when you're done. So it's kind of have to estimate that length and make sure that it's got the spring tension there, and do that, at that time. But anyway, that's how you get it apart. Pretty much putting it back together is the opposite of the same. I'm going to replace this hose, and I'm going to replace the other little piece that goes on there, and use the same clamps. These actually work really good. A lot of people think they need to replace them to those screw-on clamps, but these actually work really good because there's constant spring tension on it. So I found that these work actually better than the other ones. So as long as it gets itself tight, as long as it's tight like this, when you're done like this, let's see how it's on manual focus now. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. If it's on manual focus like that, then it will actually, on nice and tight like that, it'll work great, and it'll keep it from leaking. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys there, and we'll talk to you guys in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.